Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for anybody who has their natal Venus in the 12th house. Venus is the planet of love and beauty. It is associated with, relationships, love affairs, artistic gifts or artistic appreciation. And the 12th house is associated with karma, hospitals, prisons, suffering, because it's connected to Pisces and that sense of the victim mentality. And that's, the connection to past lives and karma that the 12th house represents has something to do with that. But it's also the house of the mystical. And so Venus in this house can indicate that you have artistic gifts. Now you're tapping into the spiritual realm, and I think a lot of artists would say that that's where they get their inspiration, whether they know it or not. They feel like something comes through them that are channeling, something that's an idea. Where does it come from? You could say it comes from the ether, or it comes from this collective soul, if you will, which the 12th house can represent. And sometimes other people may not realize that you have this rich inner life and this this type of these artistic gifts, because you may not even share them with others. The 12th house is the house of solitude, and it, by extension, this is a place of that is very private. So when you have planets there, and Venus is a personal planet, you may not be sharing this with other people. Even people close to you may not know that you have these abilities. Now, one of the things I want to give a shout out to advancedastrology.com, which is where I compiled my list from. I was kind of surprised that they didn't mention a couple of things, and I'll mention a couple of things on my own. I actually looked at a couple of sites. I probably could have found it eventually if I looked, because there were a couple things that came to mind. But one of the things that they mentioned was being shy, and people with plants in the 12th house. And I was thinking to myself, well, but this is Venus. Even though Venus is a personal planet, does that really have much to do with the person's personality? And then, now that I think about it, Venus can be, how you socialize and your friendships and things like that. Venus is, how you give and receive love. So that can, in the 12th house, there can be this sense of maybe hiding away, your social side and even your love instincts, repressing your need for love. And this is something that, let's say you're an air sign or an earth sign. These are the two elements that I consider the most detached. That might not be a big deal at all. It might actually go along very nicely with what your personality is like. However, if you are someone who is a water sign, this may contradict, everything you stand for. So it might be very maddening to you to have this, placement, because you might sabotage relationships, even good relationships, because you want to act like you don't need it. And this, so I put down here keeping your emotions under lock and key. And that was kind of paraphrasing, what they said on the site that I looked at. And so that can have a detrimental effect on relationships. Another thing that I put down here that they didn't specifically say, but I know that if you have Venus in this house, and knowing that this is Pisces realm, that this is like having Venus in Pisces. And one of the things that they always say about Venus and Pisces is that people may equate love with suffering. So the same thing can apply if you have Venus in the 12th house. The 12th house is a sacrificial house. And so, the issue of karma can also play into that, because the person may feel like it's their destiny to have to deal with suffering. If they have a certain relationship with a person that is on the more negative side, rather than, question whether it's an appropriate relationship, they may simply resign themselves to that relationship and say, well, this is what is meant to be. So there could be a fatalism with relationships where the person just assumes that this is how it has to be. So think about that if you have experienced that in the past or are experiencing it right now. Do you tend to think that you have to suffer in order to love someone, and this is just a natural part of that? And another thing that can happen is that the person has extramarital relationships. Now, from what I assumed, this could work both ways, that you fall in love with people that are already taken, or that you are stepping out on your primary relationship. They made it seem that you are stepping out on your primary relationship because you would rather stray from the marriage or committed partnership than to, tell that person that you're not happy and that you don't, you're not in love with them anymore or whatever. And that goes along with Pisces, that indirect type of approach. Part of it is, having a lot of sensitivity and not wanting to hurt others. And if you have Mars in this house as well, it can indicate a person who does not do things directly, but does things indirectly. Sometimes even passive aggression can occur, doing things behind the scenes, which is the 12th house, and not wanting to be direct about it. Secretive, that can be the 12th house too, being very secretive. And actually, I was reading recently that the sign Pisces is secretive, and I was actually quite surprised. I should have known better, knowing what the 12th house represents, but I always had heard that Scorpio is the secretive one, but I guess Pisces is up there as well. And so obviously your romantic life can be very complicated if this is a pattern for you. And so it's definitely something to look at to see if, you tend to operate this way, because obviously it could create a lot of challenging situations. One of the things that they didn't mention that I was going to say is karmic relationships. Now, we can make the argument that all relationships are karmic, but I think that, the idea of the soulmate can be very intoxicating to somebody who has Venus in the 12th house, because it's like a mystical concept. It's this idea that there is this perfect person for you, and there is a lot of idealistic tendencies when you have planets in the 12th house. So that ideal lover. Venus in the 12th house, as I stated, is very sacrificial, but it's also loving unconditionally. So that can be problematic if you tend to fall in love with people who have problems. And, if I am doing a personal reading and somebody has Venus in Pisces, or they have Venus square Neptune, Neptune is a ruler of Pisces and ruler of the 12th house, same, they can have a tendency to fall in love with what I call it, that they have the broken, what was it called? I was going to say the broken bird, but the wounded bird syndrome of falling in love with people with addictions, mental illness, just can't get themselves together. Maybe they're irresponsible, whatever it is. And, obviously everybody deserves love, and there's nothing wrong with, seeing the good in people. But when you get involved personally at that level, in that type of relationship, it can easily spiral into codependency and all of those assorted side effects that can, really wreak havoc on your own life. And so being able to see how you view love, and if you tend to put yourself in the position of the martyr when it comes to love, can be really an enlightening thing, because you can break that pattern. The 12th house is about the unconscious mind. So it is, I think the 8th house might be more of the subconscious mind. So we're talking about things that are very, and that's why, the 12th house might be more of a karmic influence, where you're talking about past lives, and the person may be very unaware that they have these detrimental patterns that really keep them from achieving more than they want out of life, because they're so wrapped up in, trying to save other people. And, it can free you from that. And then the last thing I want to mention, which was very interesting, and I haven't seen this before, so I'm so glad that I saw this, so I can, when I interpret people with Venus in the 12th house, I can talk about this. Secret indulgences. So Venus can be about pleasure, and sometimes it's too much of a good thing, right? So the 12th house can be addictions, and Venus here can be somebody who has these secret addictions, secret indulgences, like they mentioned eating candy when nobody's there. But, some people, they eat, or, eat too much, or whatever you want to say, when nobody's looking, or maybe drink when nobody's looking. Anything that they're doing on the down low, because maybe they feel that other people would judge them or what have you, but they have those strong instincts towards pleasure. Also, I wouldn't be surprised, I mean, if other factors cooperate, if there is some kind of connection with organized religion and dogma, and the person feeling ashamed about their desires, and so they do it very surreptitiously or kind of, sneakily. I, I always wonder if that's a real word. But connected to that idea of what is right and wrong morally, or through their spiritual indoctrination or what have you. So, yeah, just a little interesting tidbit about that. So, in any case, I hope that this resonated with you. If you'd like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.